Yes, okay, I guess we will start. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I hope that you are all well and safe. And I am Tony from aNERDgallery. Nice to meet you all if you have not known me already. And I am the curator of Mancapat exhibition, an expression of life through the art of Batik Tenun Gedog that is happening right now at Stamford Arts Centre at Waterloo Street in Singapore. And the show is going to be around until 12th of December. So, and this exhibition is co-organized by aNERDgallery and Sekar Kawung Foundation and is supported by National Arts Council in Singapore, the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Singapore, as well as Bank Indonesia. And for this session, it is also supported by Maybank Indonesia. So as part of the exhibition, a lot of people ask, where is Tuban? What is there in Tuban? And what are the different Tuban textiles? So we have our collaborator, Yayasan Sekar Kawung, and Mbak Kiki, our Chandra Prijosusilo, will be leading us into our introduction or a virtual trip to Tuban itself, so we can find out more about the landscape, the people, and the textiles. So I would like to invite my good friend Mbak Kiki to kickstart the session.
Thank you, Mas Tony. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to this session. It's a very informal session where we will be telling you a bit about what there is in Tuban and a bit of the history of the textiles here. So, Mas Tony, may I share my screen? Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm Chandra Kirana Kiki from Sekar Kawung Foundation. And the reason we're in this collaboration is because we have a program in Tuban to empower the weaving community there so that they can revitalize the culture and develop good livelihoods from the Tenun and the Batik Gedog. So I'll tell you a bit about the history of Tuban here. Yeah. So the history of textiles in Tuban is a very, very old. Can you see the is a very, very old tradition. If you go into textbooks, etc., you can find that even in the 8th century all the way through the 15th century, the textile culture in this area was thriving. And even in the 10th century, they were exporting cotton and also safflower as a natural dye as far as India. So there was, as far as China, they had a lot of China junks coming to this seaport. It was an important maritime Silk Road seaport in its heyday, Tuban. As long ago as 1225, for example, Zauragu mentioned Tuban, that it existed long before Majapahit, actually. So this is how old the city is and the textiles are. And it's very amazing that the textile culture in this area still continues almost probably the same as it did in those days. So whereabouts is it? It's this little spot here, Tuban. It's on the north coast of Java, about there. It's a very small seaport now, but in the old days it was a very big one. After Majapahit, the seaport was moved to Lasem, a city further up the coast here. So we looked into the, when you look into the literature about textiles in Tuban, one hallmark is Ren Seringa's research and dissertation, PhD dissertation in 76, when she visited this area and found that they had a full range of textiles with woven patterning, as well as the only batik still made on hand-woven cloth and locally planted cotton. Now that still happens today. At the time, a very interesting legend really was very strongly alive still in the community. It was a legend called Nini Towo. Now, Nini Towo is about an old lady who lives on the moon, but she originates from Tuban, and she's the protector of weavers in Tuban. I'll be showing a very short video. It's subtitled in Indonesian about her. So in the past, people would give an offering to her before they began to weave or they began to spin, because they believed that Nini Tawa would protect their process and help them so that their process was a very productive and good process. In 76 also, Rens Heringa found that in Tuban, the colors used were very distinctive between different particular ages, social or residential groups. And they followed the life cycle of the human being from birth all the way to marriage and to death. And between birth and marriage, of course, there is akil balik, is when you become adult. Initiation into adulthood, let's say. So that's actually the theme of the whole exhibition that is happening now in Singapore, is telling the story of the Mancapat and the life cycle through the batiks. But another interesting historical fact about weaving in Tuban is that in the past they used brown cotton for religious and ceremonial needs. When we arrived in 2019 to Tuban, they still had this brown cotton, but it turned out that it was a different species to the species that they used in the past. However, weavers still use it and still plant it, and it is not anymore used for religious reasons. Things have changed very dramatically in that sense in East Tuban. Nowadays, although people still plant their own cotton, make their own yarn, weave their own textile and batik on that textile, none of them remember anymore the story of Nini Tawo or the legends. And none of the use of the textiles is also so much more democratized now. Anyone can use whatever textiles they like. And anyone can buy them, and brown cotton is planted because it actually brings a better price. So you can see how dramatically the landscape is changing. Tuban is now an industrial town. You have one of Indonesia's biggest cement factories there. You also have Pertamina, so you have a very big oil field there. But the weavers, nevertheless, still are continuing this old age tradition, using tools not very different from the ones they used long, long ago in the days of Nini Tawo. Nini Tawo is believed to have been an old lady who was very skilled in spinning, but she was very unruly and didn't bow down to men very easily. She was a very independent woman, and her hair was all over the place. So she was called Nini Diwut, which means old lady with unruly hair. And so when she died, the men refused to carry out proper burials for her and put her on the top of her body on the top of a pinang tree. A pinang tree is a betel nut, and actually this center part of the spinning wheel traditionally is made out of a small part of the pinang log. So anyway, the story is that after her body was up there on the pinang tree, and the moon came out, she called out to the moon and her soul flew to the moon. And she's been there caring for weavers ever since. That's what the tradition says. You see now that the only batik that people still use is the batik with. This is hand-painted batik on homegrown and hand-woven cloth. So they still use this, but the batik for the sarong is only used on very special occasions. And you can also see that now the dress has changed very much. So, but we can still see from the elders how the cotton seed is transformed into cloth. This is a very short video of a very old lady teaching us how that is done. And also So, oh. So you see there that that old lady, she still had a cloth, a sarung, batik that she was wearing, that she had made herself, and it was a very special kind of batik. It's a batik made on a checkered piece of cloth, because they need to make sure that all of the dots are in very straight geometric. It's called tutul 16. There's 16 dots in every bit there. Create first a special hand woven cloth that has very fine checks on it. Almost it looks like the paper that
You are still mute. Mbak Kiki?
unmute. Am I? Okay, I'm sorry. I tried to look and it still looked like, so I'll repeat it again. So some of the textiles that are still made by the old people in Tuban today are on exhibition in Singapore. One of them that is of interest is the one that similar to the one that the old lady in the video had on. It's called she had this motif on. This motif is called Batik Krompol 9. It's a batik made on Tenun Gedog, hand-woven textile with these small checks, so that to ensure that the dots can be made very straight and geometrically. There's a whole lot of different motifs. This one is called Kijing Miring. Kijing is the translation of a batu nisan apa ya Mas Tony?
Tombstone?
Tombstone, yeah. So it's a miring. Miring is a
Slanted.
slanted tombstone. We don't know yet why that is called that, but this one is called Krompol 9, and there's also many other designs you can see. Here in the background is the unique black brown cotton that you find in Tuban. And you can see here, not as elaborate as in the movie, but as in the video, in Tuban, unlike other places in Indonesia, they have a very intricate, elaborate makram finishing. Here's the brown cotton and the white cotton. All of it is hand spun. So here again is a snippet of the exhibition you'll be able to see in Singapore. Everything is there, all of the different technology, the tools they use. This is gives you a bit of an insight into the kind of designs. Like in the 8th century in Tuban, they didn't have batik yet, but they did have tenun ikat. And to this day, you can still find some of the tenun ikat, although the ikat is very different from any of the ikat in East Nusa Tenggara. The ikat is only used to create these little, very fine lines. This motif is a combination of, it's a lurik, but it has dom sumalap. Dom sumalap means glittering needles. So it has glittering needles all through it. So they initially decorated their cloth with this technique. Then they also have this technique, which is more of a songket. In Tuban, they call it kembangan. This one is called motif kembang jati, the teak flower. It's very, very small. And this is made from a combination of their white and their black, brown cloth. And it's a songket technique, a supplementary weft technique. Here you have a batik. So batik came later, and they have very unique batik. It's very different from other batik in Java, and also quite different from a lot of the other batiks in the northern coast, the Pesisir. Although there are similarities, but the biggest difference, of course, is in the range of colors. They go from white to red to and blue, and then dark brown. You'll see that circle of colors in the Mancapat, and maybe Mas Tony can later help to illustrate a bit further the Mancapat after we do this. This is more, you see here in the background, there's in the color red, the motif is very much like other Pesisir, other North Coast batiks of flora and fauna on the cloth. And here are the art pieces created by contemporary artists using some of the Tuban cloth. Unfortunately, we can't give you a close-up of the design, the original batik on this one. This is batik gringsing tutul, gringsing tutul. So it's a gringsing with dots, and it symbolizes the relationship between the human being and the 4 spiritual brothers that it has, that accompanies it throughout, that a human being is accompanied throughout its life. And here we have Maria Gozali, one of our artists. She's it's her take of all of the circles of life in embroidery on this cloth. And here she's done it on tenun seser. Tenun seser is very, it's tipis, it's thin, and the weave is quite coarse. It's a bit like a pashmina weave, but it's made in cotton. And in Tuban, they still produce that. It's usually traditionally used by nursing mothers to cover their breast. And here she's done an embroidery about the Nini Towo. And here's from Agi, one of the other designers, artists. You can go and see it, hopefully, in Stamford. But if not, we will try to put up a photo, what would you say? A photo magazine on for all of you to be able to see. So I'll stop there. I won't go into more detail, because from here we'll be joining Alya Rosyadah, my colleague, who will be taking you more on the trip on the ground, what you will see if you go to East Tuban to look at how they create their yarn, create their textiles from the cotton that they plant. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mas Tony, and Alya, maybe directly.
Okay, thank you, Bu Kiki. So, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Alya. This time I will tell you about the textile culture of Tuban people. They are ini pakai bahasa Indonesia nggak apa-apa kan ya?
Ale mau buka kamera atau?
Aku nggak bisa buka kamera karena wifi-nya lemot banget.
Okay, not a problem. Apologize everyone. We are unable to see Alya on camera today because the unstable connections. But yes, I will try to help in the translation. Yes, Alya boleh, silakan.
Oke, makasih Mas Tani. Ya, jadi masyarakat Tuban ini kan mereka adalah maestro tekstil yang menguasai pengolahan kain mulai dari menanamnya di ladang sampai jadi kain gitu. Mungkin pertama saya bakalan menampilkan sebuah video tentang Festival Payung. Jadi Festival Payung ini ada sebuah acara di Solo, Indonesia. Di acara ini tuh kemarin kami menemukan cara yang menyenangkan untuk ngasih tahu tentang proses menenun di Tuban ini gitu. Jadi kami membuat satu pouch dari tenun seser Diki yang menyulamnya, dan dari situ kita menemukan sebuah cara yang menyenangkan untuk ngasih tahu ke orang-orang mengenai kebudayaan menenun di Tuban.
Sebentar ya. Alright. So yes, Alya was fascinated by the people there who are like the textile maestro, who actually did the whole textiles from the field all the way to the textile itself. And I will begin with a video from an umbrella festival that is happening this weekend in Solo, in which they want to portray the idea of the process of this textile making. So they found a fun way to introduce this by having pouch from the seser weave cloth, and then yeah, they're gonna show you what they did in the festival. Ale mau share videonya?
Iya. Oke, sebentar.
Sulaman berbagai kita lagi di Festival Payung, partisipasi sama teman-teman kalian. Sederhana sekali, kita cuma menampilkan kantong yang dibuat dari seser dan dihiasi dengan sulaman berbagai serat dan diwarnai secara alami. Atau kalau mau tahu lebih banyak tentang warna-warna alamnya, bisa lihat ya. Jadi di situ kita bisa virtualan ke berbagai tempat di Indonesia dengan serat dan kita bisa menelusuri kapas ini sejak dari masih kuku. Jadi kuku itu adalah benihnya biji-biji kapas yang lucu ini, sejak itu sampai dia menjadi kain yang indah di tangannya para penenun. Mulai dari melihat penanamannya, Nah, teman-teman bisa ikut sama Alya belajar kepada mereka bagaimana caranya. Ini bisa dia ada di sini. Sekali lagi bisa dilihat di sini juga penjelasan lebih lengkapnya. Scan.
Oke, jadi seperti yang tadi udah ada di video bahwa kita akhirnya menemukan cara untuk ngasih tahu ke orang-orang tentang budaya menenun di Tuban yang dengan cara yang menyenangkan gitu. Dari satu kantong seser yang kemudian seser itu disulam sama benang-benang yang benang-benang tersebut juga punya cerita di balik kebudayaan yang unik gitu. Aku share screen ya.
Yes.
Nah, jadi dari pouch itu
they did the kantong seser and then embroidered with materials that they did with local fibers and dyes as well, and they incorporate different technologies and catalogs to introduce the stories of Alya, you can proceed.
Oke, ya. Jadi dari seser itu kan tadi kita kasih barcode ya. Ketika orang nge-scan barcode-nya, nanti mereka bisa lihat bahwa yang gumpal-gumpal ini tuh benang dari kepompong ngengat sutra atakus. Ngengat ini senang hidup di hutan yang masih asri gitu. Terus benang dari kepompong ngengat sutra atakus ini juga diwarnainya dengan pewarna alam. Yang mana warna alam itu biru dapatnya dari indigo, merah dapatnya dari secang, terus ada kuning dapatnya dari tegeran, terus ungu didapat dari indigo campur secang, kemudian ada warna hijau juga didapatnya dari daun indigo campur tegeran. Dan itu ngengatnya ada dari Jogja. Kepompongnya tuh masih ditemukan banyak di kepompong ngengat sutra atakusnya itu masih ditemukan banyak di Wonosari, Yogyakarta. Terus ada rajutan bunga juga yang dia dibuatnya dari serat sisal, yang mana serat sisal itu tumbuh liar di lereng sisi bayangan hujan Gunung Agung Bali. Gitu. Warnanya pun juga diwarnai dari warna-warna alam. Kayak birunya dari telang, terus kuningnya dari kenikir, bunga marigold, terus merahnya ada dari bunga rosella, dan coklatnya ada dari mahoni. Kain tenunnya seperti yang tadi udah disampaikan bahwa dia kain tenun
Sorry,
dari...
ntar Ale. Yang kuning apa ya? Biru dari
kenikir.
telang, kuning kenikir, terus
Kuning dari kenikir, bunga marigold, merah
ungu.
mudanya dari rosella, ungunya dari indigo campur secang.
Okay, so after you scan the barcode, Ale suaranya nggak kedengaran.
Yes.
Hello. Ale, I cannot hear you.
Iya.
Yeah, Yang kepompong sutra atakus itu apanya? Benangnya ini.
Kepompongnya ini sangat kayak kupu-kupu gitu, kupu-kupu atakus, terus kepompongnya dijadiin benang.
Okay, so how do I translate this? The fibers is actually from the silk, from the attacus fly, which still live in the forest. So they actually requires a luscious forest to live in. So it's kind of like if go through the wisdom on local produce that there is that we have to preserve, and these forests are still available in Wonosari area in Yogyakarta, and they did the fiber and they dyed it in natural dyes as well, in which they got the blue color from indigo, the red from secang, which is a sapan wood, the yellow from tegeran, which is Javanensis kudernesia tree bark, and the purple color is from the indigo, or rather with indigo. And then the flowers are actually embroidered from sisal flowers fibers. I'm not very sure, Mbak Kiki. What is sisal in English?
Sisal is Agave sisalana. It grows in very dry areas. Like Tuban, actually, it could grow very well in Tuban. Yeah.
And they actually found this sisal at the site of the Agung Mountain, like one of the biggest mountain in Bali. It's like very fascinating as well, because like one side of it is like super dry and the other side is like very luscious. So on the dry side they have this sisal flowers, and they dyed it with blue with the butterfly pea flower, and yellow with the marigold, and pink color with Rosella flowers, and brown with mahogany. And yeah, so these are all done for the pouch itself is made from fibers from the cotton that the maestro actually planted themselves, harvested, spin it, yarn it, and weave it. Oke, Ale, bisa dilanjutkan.
Nah, kalau dari pouchnya sendiri kan itu dari tenun seser dari kapas yang ditanam, diolah menjadi benang dan ditenun oleh para maestro tenun di Tuban. Nah, itu juga prosesnya beda sendiri, prosesnya panjang juga. Ini aku share. Bentar.
Ale is going to share the process of making the seser cloth itself.
Ini juga kita tampilkan di sana barcode-nya, terus nanti orang yang penasaran bisa nge-scan dan akan muncul petualangan wuku gitu, tentang wuku.
Yep, so through here they're able to see the journey of a wuku, which is the cotton seeds, not the Japanese calendar. Yep.
Jadi ini bermula dari ketika wuku itu kan benih ya, ketika benihnya itu ditanam, kemudian selama 3 bulan dirawat sama para petani di sana, terus setelah sekitar 3 bulan itu nanti akan tumbuh bunga putih yang cantik ini. Dan ketika bunga putih ini diserbuki, maka bunganya akan kian menjadi warna merah muda kayak gini. Kemudian dari bunga ini, bunga akan menjadi buah, dan buahnya nanti akan menetas bahasanya, menetas menjadi kapas, terus kemudian kapasnya siap buat dipanen.
So this is the story, the journey of the seeds, right? So it bloomed into a flower, and then after that, after it is fertilized, it turns into this pink flower over here, which became the cotton fruit. So once the fruit is ripe, harvested. Alya, you can continue.
Ya, oke. Terus kemudian setelah gulungan
Sorry, I think we might have lost Alya.
Itu aja, scanning.
Yes, apologize for the technical difficulties. While waiting for Alya to come back, if anyone has any questions, specifically what you want to find out more about Tuban or textiles, yeah, just drop it in the chat, or you can use the raise hand function. So there was a question earlier regarding the worms that they see on the cotton seeds that has been actually answered, but I just like read it out. So the cotton seed has worms as shown in the video. Is its function similar to silkworm? So Bakiki actually replied that the worms are there because it is because it is fully organic. So we have to carefully make sure that all the little bugs are removed from the cotton upon harvest. So they are actually bugs that affects the quality. Yes.
Sinyalnya nggak kuat. Ya. Oke.
Yes.
Lanjut.
Yes, silakan.
Nah, tadi kan kapas itu dipisahkan dengan bijinya, disebut bibis, kemudian kapas dibanting-banting dengan stik bambu buat menghaluskannya, disebutnya nitii, kemudian kapas itu digulung jadi gulungan kapas yang disebut pusoh, prosesnya disebut giles, terus kemudian pusoh tersebut dipintal dengan Chandra, alat pintal tradisionalnya, kapas dipintal jadi benang, disebutnya nganteh. Gimana, Mas?
You are definitely testing me on my translation of all these textile making terms. So the story of making yarns, rather. So first we go with bibis, which is to remove the cotton from the seed. So it's actually the cotton encapsulates the seed. So we have to remove the fibers from the seeds and separate them. And then after that is the next process, which is nitiki, which is to beat the cotton to kind of like fluff it up and to smoothen it. And then after that, they will like roll it into pusoh, which looks like not a cigarette. What is it? A cigar. Yeah, so it looks like a cigar, and then they will actually finally spin the
Pusah.
wheel that you roll, and then you create that, and you produce that yarn. Okay, so I guess that's the first row there.
Ya, terus kemudian setelah benang jadi pun nggak bisa langsung ditenun gitu. Benang jadi pun proses pengolahannya masih panjang, masih harus dilikasi, terus disikat dengan direbus dan direndam dengan air yang ada nasinya, terus kemudian disikati, setelah disikati diulur, setelah diulur terus dipani, dan semua proses itu tuh mungkin terlihatnya mudah, tapi ketika aku datang langsung ke sana dan mencoba langsung gitu, wah itu ternyata kompleks dan mereka tuh jenius banget gitu, masih bisa mengingat dan bisa mengerti itu gitu.
Yarn to even to weaving, just before weaving, the process is still very long. So you cannot just get the yarn from the spinning wheel and then make it into the loom. So the process they have to nyegoni, in which they boil and then they overnight rice porridge kind of solutions. Basically, is to get the starch to starch the yarn, and then they have to brush the yarn, and they're using a sword, which is like a very cute thing from a coconut shell, and then they actually cut it and then they fluff it up to get the fibers to act as a brush. And then after that, mengulur is a yarn swift that is to kind of like untie the yarns. And finally, they do memani, which is to arrange the threads for the warp for the loom. So it's to arrange. So they do arrangement and then they calculate the position of the yarns in which you want to appear on the warp.
Yeah.
Alya was there. It's super complex, and Alya was so amazed that how that it was like so ingenious that people can remember like all these different steps and to do it like a day-to-day thing. Yeah, so it's very fascinating to her.
Iya. Oke. Setelah benang tadi terakhir kan udah dipani. Setelah dipani, kemudian benang dimasukin ke suri. Suri itu kayak sisir yang menentukan apakah tenun itu akan menjadi jarang-jarang ataukah tenun itu akan menjadi padat gitu. Semakin jarang jumlah sisir pada surinya tuh, maka dia akan jadi jarang kayak seser. Terus kalau misalnya dia padat, maka dia akan jadi tenun gedok yang tipikalnya tuh dia padat dan tebal gitu. Nah, ini proses masukin benang ke suri ini disebut nyusupno. Terus setelah nyusupno, kemudian benang ditenun, dan proses menenunnya ini pun ada langkah-langkahnya lagi tersendiri yang aku sendiri pun belum memecahkannya gitu, kayak ketika aku ngeliat, wah kompleks banget ya gitu. Ini Mak Jasmi ini udah tua banget, tapi ingatannya tentang menenun tuh nggak pudar sama sekali gitu. Nah terus karena ini kemarin dibuatnya buat menjelaskan
sorry,
tentang
mungkin aku translate juga. Yeah. So for the weaving, after you got that arranged on the warp thread, and then determine like how tight is your cloth in the end. So if it is like big, it become the kain tenun seser, or if it is very tight together, you will get the tighter and the much stiffer cloth, like most weave. So and that is again, she is very amazed at how the artisans, the elder artisans like Ibu Jasmine or Ibu Jasmira, who are like relatively older, but they can like remember all the tiny little details very well. So yeah, that's very amazing.
Ya. Nah, terus karena ini kemarin kan karena menjelaskan tentang sesernya, terus akhirnya kita masukin para maestro tenun di Tuban yang mereka masih menguasai teknik menenun seser gitu. Ada Mbak Desmira, ada Mak Jasmi, ada Mak Kasti, ada Mak Sarina, ada Mak Surya. Terus kita juga akhirnya berencana, belum berjalan sih, tapi kita sudah sudah membuat kesepakatan dengan para penenun ini, mereka mau nggak dibuatin paket wisata gitu. Nah akhirnya ya udah kita merancang sendiri paket wisatanya bareng para penenun ini, dan jadilah paket wisata petualangan wuku ini, di mana ketika kamu mengikuti paket wisata ini, kamu bakalan bisa merasakan pengalaman menjelajahi ladang kapas, terus mulai dari melihat kapas itu ada di ladang sampai akhirnya diolah jadi benang, terus benangnya diolah jadi kain, dan bahkan kain tersebut pada akhirnya bisa kamu jadikan produk eco fashion yang menyesuaikan dengan kreativitas kamu gitu.
So yeah, so this is like paying an homage to artisans that are there. So we put there, we put photos as to put faces to their name. As often artisans, you don't know who are the people behind the textiles. So we put their pictures next to their name to let people know as well and to celebrate them. And with that experience that they gather, they collaborated with the local artisans themselves, the weavers, to come up with a tour, a trip, based on the adventure of a cotton seeds, right? So you will be able to see all the cotton trees in the cotton fields and how it's being processed into yarns, maybe wove it into a piece of cloth, and then yeah, basically for people to learn about the textile itself, and maybe if you're inspired to create eco-fashion products from these textiles as well.
Ya, menurutku yang menariknya sih memang karena itu masyarakat sendiri gitu yang nanti akan menyambut para tamu, yang mereka bakal bercerita tentang budaya mereka sendiri, dan seperti membawa pasar langsung ke sumbernya nih, langsung ke para maestronya gitu.
So what I find interesting that yeah, because the maestro themselves who are the one who will be welcoming visitors and talk about their crafts, their daily lives. So it will be a very different experience for the visitors.
Ya, jadi bagi teman-teman yang tertarik atau mau tahu lebih lanjut tentang budaya menenun di Tuban, teman-teman bisa hubungi juga. Di sini udah ada nomor teleponnya, udah ada website, dan udah ada Instagramnya Sekar Kawung. Nanti bisa main ke Tuban dan ikut petualangan wuku.
So if you're interested, unfortunately borders is not open yet. So the adventures of a cotton seeds trip, you can contact them through the numbers on the screen or follow them on Instagram. at Sekar Kawung _ID. And for those who are not yet in Indonesia,
Oke.
Alright.
Sekian sih dari.
Okay, sure. All right. So yes, that will be all. Yes. So we have learned about the history of Tuban itself and the adventure of cotton seeds and what you can see. Probably to kind of like give you a taste of what Tuban is like. And before I actually close off the sessions, if
There's a question from Ms. Suhana about crystallis. What is the question?
Actually, I was wondering about what is the name of the kepompong just now? Is it the same of chrysalis?
No, it's the attacus moth. It's the big brown and black. I'll see if I can find one on the screen. The attacus moth. That's kupu gajah. Do you have it in Singapore?
sure.
Kupu gajah, it's a very big moth like this, and it's brown, black and yellow. It has two very big yellow dots and it looks like the eyes. But it's not the crystallis.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, Jenny asked earlier, is it possible to plant the wuku in a flower pot in Jakarta as a decorative plant?
Yes.
Yes.
But you will have to change it after 4 months because it will dry and the cotton will have to be picked.
Yep. So you might, need to go to Tuban and learn from the maestro themselves how to grow a cotton plant. Maybe.
But we can also send some seed to Miss Jenny.
It's yes. Is there any final questions before we close out the session? Yes, of course. Let's visit Tuban. Yes, sorry. Probably, Batik, if you have any final messages to close off the questions. Sorry, to close off the session. Or kesan-kesan, Batik.
Yes, kesan-kesan. Well, thank you very much for all friends who have attended this session. It would be a much better pleasure to be able to take you around in Tuban itself when things are already much better. Also, we hope to be able to have more exhibitions maybe in Singapore when times are better, so that we can have a much more vibrant and interactive process with all of you in Singapore, tapi juga for all of our friends here in Indonesia who have participated. We will also be most happy to have maybe special sessions maybe after the new year if you want to learn more about Tenun Tuban. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Mbak Kiki. Let me just share the.
Yeah, and don't forget to visit the exhibition in Stamford Arts Centre.
I am sharing right now. Yes, I'm so sorry. Apologize for any technical difficulties that you might have, but thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you had like a glimpse of Tuban itself, and you'll be more curious about the textiles itself. So don't forget about I mean, you know, you have heard all about it, and it is a totally different experience to probably like see the artwork and the textiles on site, right? Live. So do join us at Stamford Arts Centre, project room 02-02 at 155 Waterloo Street, right here in Singapore. And it's running until next weekend, 12th December 2021. And yes, of course, if you are not in Singapore, we hope to come out with a catalog or like a virtual version of the exhibition. But meanwhile, do join us. Oh, we have some programs as well. On 11th of December, we have the Meet the Artists Live. So the two contemporary artists, Agatha Lee or Aggie, as well as Nur Iskandar, will be here at 2:30 p.m. to meet the fans, answer your questions, so you can talk to them in person about their work and their relationship or their take on the rest of the exhibitions of the textiles, right? And then on the 12th of December, which is next Sunday, we will have another session on innovating Tuban textiles, which will have two fashion designers talking about their creative process and incorporating traditional Indonesian textiles for contemporary wear. So I think it will be a very interesting session as well. So do join us next weekend, virtual on live. So for any information, do check out us on www.aNERDgallery.com/Mancapat or our respective Instagram or social Facebook, sorry, at aNERDgallery and at Sekar Kawung _ID. And yes, so once again, thank you so much. And I'm Tony signing off outside of our exhibition showroom. So until next time, stay safe and take care, everybody. And we can stop the recording.
Thank you, everybody.
Mbak Kiki, ada beberapa request ini untuk minta brosur, boleh tak forward?
Iya, itu aku tadi kepingin share QR code-nya tapi lupa, nggak tahu caranya.
Oke.
Mbak Kiki sukses ya.
QR code-nya.
Barcode-nya bisa ditampilin mungkin.
Oh iya.
Bisa.
Atau dikirim linknya aku tadi.
Mbak Kiki sukses ya.
Terima kasih Mbak Aje.
Dalam keadaan nyelam.
Oh, sulamannya keren banget nih. Nanti bisa Mbak Aje ini entusias kain juga Mas Tony. Mas Tony harus kenal.
Halo.
Halo Mas Tony. Saya terlambat tadi masuknya. Nggak sengaja nelpon Mbak Kiki. Mau nanyain kapan ke Batik Tuban. Ternyata malah lagi Zoom. Jadi kapan nih Mbak Kiki? Kapan mau sowan ke Tuban nih Mbak Kiki?
Mungkin tahun baru nanti Mbak.
Oh, nggih, kita tunggu. Dengan senang hati. Nanti ketemu deh di sana. Kita kolaborasi antara tenun dan sulam ya.
Iya.
Mbak Kiki, kalau saya mau beli kain tenun-tenunnya itu di mana ya Mbak Kiki? Kalau mau lihat atau gimana ya? Maksudnya sebelum, kalau ke tahun baru kan nanti masih 1 bulan. Tapi nggak apa-apa sih ya.
Oh, nanti bisa saya share. Mungkin kita bisa lanjutin call sendiri aja kali, karena ini streamingnya
Iya,
pakai
iya.
pakai KBRI soalnya masih.